If you've ever struggled to get that tight, clear, and punchy low end that you hear in pro mixes, this video is for you. Getting the low end right is an incredibly important part of the mixing process. If there's too much uncontrolled low end, it can make your entire mix sound muddy. Sometimes getting rid of it with an EQ or high pass filter can help clean up the muddiness, but actually remove some of the body and punch that you want to keep in the lows. In this video, I'm going to give you some practical tips for controlling the lows and getting a tighter, clearer, and punchier low end in your mix. Let's get started. So first off, take a listen to this mix I'm working on. We've got a 2-track beat. We've got a bunch of vocals on top of it. It sounds pretty good, but it's a little bit muddy in the lows.
Sanity, you did everything right. More love, more life with you. All seasons come.
The kick sounds nice and punchy, and the 808 is really big. Overall, it sounds good, but it's just a little bit flabby, especially in the subs, and it's contributing to this mix not having that punch and tightness in the lows. Take another listen and really focus on those low-end instruments. It can be helpful to listen on headphones or good speakers.
Sanity, you did everything right. More love, more life with you. All seasons come.
So it may not seem like a huge deal right now, but the problem is going to come up when you go to master your track and you put your limiter on your mix bus, and all of a sudden you're not going to be able to get that competitive loudness without pumping or crunching or distorting your limiter, right? When you have a lot of low end pumping into a limiter, you just can't quite turn it up as much as you want without getting that distortion or that crunch sound every time that low end hits. So that's why we need to control it at this stage in the mix. So let me show you some ways I like to clean it up. First, I'm going to load X-Rack Pro on this track. So in this mix, I've got the beat as a 2-track already, but if I didn't have that, I would probably just create an aux track and send all the instruments into that. So I could apply this really just to the instruments. So instead of reaching for an EQ or filter right away, I'm actually going to reach for some multiband dynamics over here in the maximize module. Now this module is really versatile. You probably think of it as a way to add some hype to your track, which it can certainly do. Take a listen to, if we just pull up the multi in OTT mode, it's just going to add a ton of hype. So that's the classic OTT sound, exactly as it would sound if we did it with OTT and Ableton here. But for this trick, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to set the mid and high amounts to 0%, and I'm going to leave the lows at 100%. And so now when we pull this up, we're only going to be applying this multiband dynamics to the lows. And you can see we're only applying it to the lows now. We're only seeing those low meters jump, and we're applying it to everything below this low crossover frequency. So everything below 88.3 Hertz, that's what we're applying this multiband dynamics to. So that's cool, but let's customize this a little bit. We're gonna flip through these different modes and take a listen to them. So some of them, like open or massive, are actually creating an even bigger low end. And in some tracks, that might be exactly what we are looking for. So these modes would be great for that. In this case, we actually want to tighten the low end. So tight or even crush sounded pretty good at just kind of reining that low end in, making it feel a lot more solid. So I really like tight on this track. It's doing a great job of keeping the punch, but it just feels a lot more controlled. However, it's doing a bit too much right now. We're losing a bit too much of the lows. And before I set the multi-slider where I want, I'm gonna fine tune the crossover frequency. So I can just drag this around, and I'm just gonna pull it down until it feels like it can breathe a bit more, but it still feels controlled. So somewhere in this 80 Hertz range feels really good. The 808 has enough room to breathe, but we're just kind of controlling everything below that 80 Hertz mark, and it just feels a lot tighter and more solid. Listen before and after this processing. So it still feels big in the lows, but it's just a lot more controlled. Now I'm going to dial back this multi-slider until it feels good. really like that setting, but I'm gonna try one more trick with X-Rack Pro here. If I set the tone routing to post, this is gonna take the entire tone module and place it after the maximize module in the chain. So all of our tone processing is gonna happen after the maximize module. And this is cool because now we can actually fine tune the subs and the lows after it's already been dynamically controlled by the maximize module. So it turns out we can actually add a little bit more subs back into it because it's already been dynamically controlled. So let's listen before and after X-Rack Pro. So it's so much tighter in the lows now, but it doesn't feel like we lost a lot of energy down there. It's just more in control. And this is gonna help a lot down the line when we start applying limiting in the mastering phase. We're gonna be able to get that competitive loudness without pumping or crunching or distorting the limiter. So try this out in your next mix, next time you wanna get a tighter, clearer low end, and leave us a comment with whatever other challenges you might be facing in your mixes. We'll do our best to make a video on all of them. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe for more tutorials like this, and as always, happy mixing.